Hi everyone, Donna McElvaney here, and today we're going to be doing a video on planned pulling using Mistletoe, Red Heart Super Saver, in the colorway of Mistletoe. So the first thing we do is we look at what size hook that it says to use, and here it says to use the I hook, 5.5 millimeter. So I'm going to get my I, and I'm also going to get some other ones on standby just in case. I've got my G, my H, and my J. All right, and this is going to be an alternate method of pulling. So in this method, we're not going to be doing the required modified puff stitch at the end of the long tail side as I do in my other videos. All right, but in this, I'm going to be using an alternate color just to do some marking that I'm going to need to do. All right, so for time's sake, I went ahead and began the chain. The base row, which is you chain through one color sequence. I began with red, and it's red, white, green, white, and then I have red on my hook. I did have red on my hook. All right, so now we begin with the moss stitch row. We do fourth one from the hook, 3, fourth one, and so we begin to moss stitch. We do single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1. We're going to do that all the way down through one color sequence until I get red on the hook again. And you want to make sure that you don't have muddy legs whenever you go into color change. Whenever the color changes and goes into the next color, you want to make sure that your legs are nice and clean. You don't want to have a muddy stitch or a split leg. All right, and that's good. Okay, and then however many stitches that you have of each color, that's how many that you want to carry throughout your project. Single crochet, chain 1, skip 1. And this is the moss stitch. I'm pulling it a little bit tight. I had been crocheting a lot more loosely, but as I was doing it, I was having to frog them out and redo it because I kept winding up with some muddy stitches, like here. Okay, so on this white I have 2, and you're not necessarily going to have the same whenever this is red, white, and this goes from green to white. So this white could very well be different, and it could have 3 stitches in it. I like to keep them all the same, so I am going to loosen this white one up to where I have 2. Try to anyway, and I might regret that later. Alright, but that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I have red on my hook. So here is where I am going to want to turn. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red ones. Alright, so I'm going to pull out 1 white stitch, turn. I've already chained 1, so I'm going to chain 1 more for the turn. I chained 2 in the turns. And I'm going to go ahead and begin with the white stitch. In my other videos, I went ahead and I ate up that other stitch here in this turn, and I began with the red stitch. But we're going to be doing something different this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going into that chain space. I'm going right into here. 5 and 6. Here I have 6 red stitches. In my first one, I believe I have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red stitches. But in this very first one here, I have 6. That is what is going to help us offset the colors. So every time that I go on this one here, there's only going to be 6 red stitches. But in all my other patterns, there's going to be 7. Whenever you're doing more than one sequence, it can get pretty confusing. Like in my Afghan that I recently did, it was several sequences that I had done. So I kept track of the one that was offset by putting this gold yarn in it so I could see it. So that whenever I came to it, I knew that I had to switch to a larger hook or make my stitches a lot looser so that I had one less stitch in it. Okay, we're gonna have 2 white stitches. 1 and 2. And then here, I have red here. So my first red is going to start right here, which is exactly where I want it to be, offset by 1. And I'm going to have 7 here. 1, 2, 3, pull some more yarn out, 4, 5, 6, and I've already run out. So if I just keep going, if I'm not paying attention, this is where a lot of people do make mistakes at as well, is they just crochet right along. If I keep going, I only have 6 red ones here instead of 7. They're going to start stacking as it's stacking here, and then my white one is going to stack here and here. So I'm going to have to go back and make these a bit tighter. I'm going to go ahead and switch down to my H hook. All right, I need 7 red ones. I need to make sure that they're offset by 1. With this technique, you can either count your stitches. Always make sure that you watch that first row, because however many you have on that first row is how many that you need throughout. And I'm still not tight enough. Okay. I'm going to keep using my H, and I'm just going to pull them tighter. And this is what's tricky with planned pulling, is that you have to make sure your stitches are landing in the correct places. So now I have switched hooks and I have pulled it tighter, and now it's where I want it to be, right here above this white one, and they are offset by 1. Okay. I'm going to go loosely with my H so that I don't have to switch back to my I. I'm going to try this first. Alright, so I'm going into the spaces, into these chain spaces here is where I'm crocheting into, where I'm putting the stitch at. I need one more, because this is this green one, so I need one more green one here. Check the back, make sure I didn't split that leg. Okay, chain 2, turn. Whenever you turn your work, look and make sure. I need 2 white stitches, and that's exactly where it is. It's 2 white ones. 1 and 2. And then here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is where I'm going to be having 6 reds instead of 7. I'm going to go ahead and mark this because this will move. This section will travel all the way up your project. So you want to kind of keep an eye on it as it goes. I'm going to switch back to my eye because these ones need to be nice and loose. Alright, the way I do this, alright, so there's one. See how it's going? One. And then my first one is here. Two. I just pick that up. Three, like that. 4, 5, and 6. I'm doing them nice and loose. There we go. So I end correctly. 2 white ones. 1 and 2. And I'm doing these tight because I'm switched back to my eye hook here. 3. 4, 5, 6. So sometimes it's difficult to get into this corner. So you want to see the V. You don't want to split the V on either side. Alright, so I'm going to pull that over to the side there. Make sure I didn't split it. Very good. It's right there. Chain 2 as I turn. Check where I am. So I need 2 white stitches, and that's going to land perfectly. I record on my phone, so right now I've got it all propped up on some stuff, and it's like right here, and either my hook or my hand keeps hitting it. But this is the best way that I found to do my videos. So just bear with me. Alright, I'm gonna have to do real tight because I need 2 more stitches. There we go. And then I've got 2 white ones. Always check your work, especially whenever you're just starting out, but always stop and check and make sure that they are landing where they need to land. It can be difficult whenever they all bunch up in one section like that too. So then look to the outers. Green, green, so your first green needs to be here. Look to the outer colors whenever you have a color that's merging in the center to make sure that they are falling in line correctly. In my other videos, I do a modified puff stitch on this corner over here, the long tail side, because on the long tail side is where your stitch gets ate up in the turning chain. But with this method here, that doesn't happen. Let's see. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I needed, if I start here with the white, then they're gonna stack. So I need to get 1 more green stitch out of this. So I'm gonna frog this back, rip it. I'm gonna go down to my G hook, make these a little bit tighter. So everything you know about tension and making sure you keep your tension the same and making sure it all lines up correctly, it all goes out the window when it comes to planned pulling. Because planned pulling is a game of tension. Making sure your stitches land where they need to land. So I'm going to have a green one here, which is right where I need to be. And that's what I mean by a muddy stitch. It's a little bit muddy there. See how that white's kind of coming through? To get that to not do that, you go ahead and rip that out again and make it even tighter to make sure to get rid of that muddy stitch. For time's sake, I'm not doing that. I'm going to continue on. I switched to my eye hook because I know I needed to be a lot looser on these white ones. Excuse me. And here we are coming to the red that I have marked. So that means that I need to be more loose with this red section. it up and incorporate that in. It just helps it to flow along a lot quicker than having to mark it every single time I do it. That's just the way that I mark it. A lot easier. And there we have it. It's falling in line correctly. And then my white begins right there above that second white stitch. And my second white is right above that green one. And my green begins right where it's supposed to. And my green's a little tighter. I need to go ahead and tighten it up, especially because it's going to be on a turn. So I'm going to go ahead and switch hooks because I know this green is going to be on a turn. Alright, I go into a lot more detail in my other plan pulling videos. Hopefully this helps you as well. And for those that don't like to do the modified puff, then this is an alternative where you don't have to do the modified puff, but you definitely have to do something. There has to be a variation somewhere to make it offset by 1. Very close on that being a muddy stitch, and I will show you. And that is a split leg. I don't like that, so I'm going to make it even more loose. And this is that one where I could have gotten 3 stitches out of the white that followed the green, but I wanted to keep it as 2 stitches. And I also commented and said it might come back and bite me later. Okay. And so I wasn't counting, I was just looking. And my next stitch is going to be right above those 2 stitches, so I know I don't have enough. It's correct here, but it lines up here, so it's not correct. So I need to tighten those up. A lot of times people lose it in the turn. Other times it's just a matter of not counting correctly, not making sure they land where they need to land at. Whenever you get to your next color, always stop and look and make sure that they're landing where they need to be. So now my green starts here, and that's right where I need it to be. Make sure it's not muddy, and they're not. So here, this corner is really super tight. All right, and the V is still there. That stitch is there. Sometimes I've split stitches on those corners, and then that can also mess you up whenever you turn to begin the row. If you've split your V, you might wind up starting to split stitches or skip a stitch completely. So you got to be careful of those split stitches too. And I think I am too tight now, because here is where white needs to start. So I'm going to go back just to this corner here. And after the green, I know the white is really loose, so I'm going to jump back up to my eye hook and just go about these loosely. See if that helped it enough. It did, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it tighter. I'm not pulling it tighter. I'm going to go ahead and pull them out so that I can make it more loose. chain 2 on my turn, and 2 stitches on this side. Very good. And by some of the white being ate up right there in that chain stitch, helps a lot whenever you're going into these 2 stitches to eat up some of those. All right, and now I'm at the marked section, so I know I need to be more loose. Okay. So I hope that helps you out. And I guess I was too loose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, definitely. Tighten them up a little bit. All right, so I hope this helps you with your planned pulling endeavors. I also have videos that I just posted before this on the border. I did a moss stitch border around it. Sometimes whenever you put a border on it, it can make it real wavy. So it's a way to avoid having your border be really, really wavy. And then after I did the moss stitch border, I bordered this in green. I then did another video on the candy cane border over the green border. It came out really, really pretty, very, very nice. Let me stop and look and make sure this is where it needs to be. I'm going to do these tighter. So check out those videos. Hit like and subscribe. Would definitely appreciate that. And I know I didn't go into a whole lot of detail in the planned pulling technique in this one like I do in my others, but hopefully you can understand it. And this is one where all your legs land. There we go. And all you do is, I'm gonna have to go back and loosen that up. So all you have to do is, you do this modified, it's not modified, you don't do the modified puff stitch, but you have one section that is different. This one only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches, and this one has 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. As you can see, you're not going to be able to tell it whenever it's all said and done with, whenever you're done with your project. As you can see, you can't tell that this side is 1 stitch shorter than this one. And this is only 1 color sequence through. So to do a blanket, you want to have several sequences through. And then that's where this definitely comes very, very handy, so that it's easier to see it, to keep up with it, and all that good stuff. All right, I hope that helps, and happy pulling.